December 20th, Zelensky openly claimed that the Ukraine will, option A, gradually compensate EU funds, option B, until the payment is paid off, and option C, Ukraine is not going to pay off the loan. Yes, that's what he said, option C, that Ukraine is not going to pay off its debt. They claimed that they're going to pay off its debt once Russia is going to pay off its reparations. Well, I think everyone understands that reparations that Zelensky is talking about, calling them reparations, some obligations, it's not going to happen. Well, probably the European Union is going to listen to what Brussels heard from Zelensky. Probably the European Union should understand that these funds, 90 billion euros and other loans, will never be paid off by Ukraine. Probably they will take Ukrainian lands, Ukrainian property, Ukrainian resources, rare earth materials, rare earth metals, Ukrainian citizens, either dead or alive. We know what they do with Ukrainians in the West. Well, maybe they will have something, but they will never have that in a payment. In order to hear and understand Russia in Europe, the European political class needs to acquire will and wisdom and stop its descent to uncontrolled escalation and aggression. They need to listen to the voice of their own people and give their voters the legitimate right that they have stolen from them to express their will freely. People in Europe are tired of the fact that they need to make payments, regular payments to the Kyiv regime, that they need to provide payments for those lazy people in the office of the president. These bloodsuckers, the European allies of Kyiv, primarily the EU and Great Britain, are not thinking about peace. They are just betting on the escalation with Russia and on the ongoing hostilities until the last Ukrainian. And they're not going to have any repayment of their debt. Again, as I said, they are betting on escalation and on the ongoing hostilities until the last Ukrainian, because money, that's all they need. What should we do for Europe to start listening to the common sense and to the voice of their people? Well, probably we should start with the basic steps like freedom of mass media, freedom of expression, that should be reinstated in Europe, because that's one of the reasons why people in Europe are in information vacuum in European countries. That's what probably we should start with, and take into account the profound confrontation that is initiated and is being tightened by the collective Brussels. The issue of making Russia heard in Europe, it's not a technical but rather fundamental question. It's a question of worldview. To reestablish mutual understanding, we don't need to adjust tactics, but we need to make profound changes, but not in the Russian approaches, but in the approaches of the European Union. Russia has always been open to cooperation and partnership, friendship. We had only one condition: international law should be respected, and it includes morals, laws like not just rules, but norms that are set out in the documents. But as for morals, again, it is reflected in international documents like mutual respect, non-humiliating treatment of each other, non-interference in domestic affairs of independent states.
Lavrov, we are prepared to legally write down the lack of aggressive plans regarding NATO and EU countries, and they are a natural continuation of our principled and consistent position. We cannot see this as something suiting the current situation. This is our consistent policy. We have done a lot for this throughout the whole situation, throughout history. If you forgot this, in late 2021, we worked out and suggested to discuss for joint work the relevant principles that would enshrine the guarantees of security. This was an invitation for a large-scale discussion. We sent them to Washington, to Brussels, to NATO in Brussels. In particular, we were prepared to work with Europeans on a wide range of issues. We sent them to the OSCE. We received strategic silence, if I may say. This is our unwavering position. And the Kyiv thugs do not like the words "the Great Patriotic War," and they stopped hiding it. They want to change it to World War II. The monument to Mikhail Bulgakov will be taken down as well. The media reported that. It is already wrapped in plastic tape and is covered up with bags of soil. What Bulgakov wrote about is exactly what is going on in Ukraine. This, however, does not stop people in Kyiv that continue bring live flowers to it. No matter how hard Banderovics attempt to rewrite the history and to remove memory about our joint and common past, they won't succeed. These facts only reconfirm the relevance of the goals to denazify and demilitarize Ukraine and to remove threats coming from its territory. All these goals will be achieved. Russian leadership has said that many times.
We have slow but steady progress in the negotiating process with the United States on the situation in Ukraine. We have repeatedly stated that this negotiating process is accompanied by harmful and malicious attempts of a number of states, first and foremost European ones, to torpedo these efforts and to undermine all our diplomatic achievements. In the dialogue with the US administration, we call on our colleagues to oppose to such attempts. We are ready to continue this work at the summit level, within the framework that was provided at the summit level in Anchorage. They have so many ways to undermine the peace process, like terrorism, extremism of the Kyiv regime, and they receive all the necessary funding for that, militarization, rhetoric, and all other steps that undermine international food security. It surely doesn't contribute to the peace process.